for the rest of his money for this Crawford fight. And I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying that's just my opinion of it. That's my assumption, my hypothesis, my educated guess. I don't think he was doing this self. I think he was doing this to get the rest of his money. That's just my, once again, that's my opinion, right? You had a couple guys that went out pretty sad. You had Danny Garcia, who, you know, prior to that fight, I believe I was tipped off that Danny Garcia wasn't even going to try. And he took a dive to get allegedly to get out of his contract, so he did the fight at the Barclays Center after the Lara fight. Deontay Wilder allegedly wasn't paid for the Lanius fight, was let out of his contract. The first guy to whoop Wilder ass after that first fight, because he got knocked out twice, right? Or am I tripping? Damn, then Wilder, then somebody whoop, was his name that whooped Wilder in his first fight without PBC? Damn, who was the nigga that whooped Wilder? Oh, Parker. It was Parker, Joseph Parker. But last night, man, what I seen was people talking about Spence back leg. If you noticed anything significant, it'll be a Parker. If you notice anything significant about this fight, you just look at the legs. Errol Spence was retreating, bro. Errol Spence was retreating this whole, and I'm just thinking like maybe he's just getting his leg, warming his legs up after he cooked in the third round, and he kept moving. It was over with. Errol Spence was a guy, and this is why I say what Tim Tszyu always beats on. Any version of Errol Spence, Tim Tszyu beats, right? The reason that I believe that is because Errol Spence, if you've seen him at 54, before they close him down to 47, that's all you need to. That's all I need to say. Errol Spence had a physical advantage at 147 pounds. He was bigger than guys. He was able to cut the weight, and I think if Lubin was able to make that cut, Lubin would have been better than Errol Spence. But I don't think Lubin felt comfortable making that 7 pound cut from 54 to 47. Errol Spence made that 7 pound cut, and that's what made Errol Spence at welterweight. He just was bigger. He was still fast. He was more powerful. If you look at him above 147 with the 10-ounce gloves on, bro, wasn't the same fighter, bro. Mechanical, stiff. The power wasn't there. He was a guy that benefited from, you know, they call it weight bully. What was the casual boxing film? The weight bully, Errol Spence. The weight bully. He benefited from that. And once you seen a nigga like Errol Spence doing a Hollywood shuffle past the third round, even after he had a successful third round, once he did the Hollywood shuffle and he was still, you know, circling around the ring, it was a wrap. You know, Tim Tszyu just didn't jab. If you know Tim Tszyu, he brought in a guy named Jeff Finnich, you know, and he did a good job last night. But guess what? The first thing, if I'm with a guy like Tim Tszyu and he doing all that stuff, we're not gonna stalk and not get our head off the line, and we're not gonna stalk and not jab. You know what I'm saying? Errol Spence. You know, I was wondering, and I think Paulie said it on the telecast, and I was wondering, like, okay, is it that Tim Tszyu got a great poker face, or Errol Spence didn't have no power? And eventually, you know, I think I would say officially for me, it was around the 9th, 10th round. I figured he didn't have no power, because even the good body shots that Errol Spence was landing, in the clean head shots, the looping shots that he was landing, he didn't have no power on him. You know, he punched it with a wide base. He never was able to get Tim Tszyu respect. You know, one thing I liked about it was he kept a huge pace. Errol Spence is one of those guys that throw a lot of punches. A lot of guys down there don't throw punches no more, especially the Shakurs, the Devins. They don't throw punches no more. He had a nice pace going. But once again, and people talking about his back leg, but he's always been heavy on the front foot. So if you've seen what Tim Tszyu did too, Tim Tszyu just pivot. Even though Tim Tszyu pivot and he didn't really jab off the pivot, he knew Spence's hands, all his weight was over his front foot. And it's always been that way. He just pivot, and then he'd throw a little short right hook, you know what I'm saying, or a short left hook, and then he would pivot. Then he would pivot and maybe throw a little short uppercut later in the fight. He was all these little short shots on Errol Spence. And if he had jab, then pivot, then pivot with the left hook, and then came back with the right hand, he would have stopped Errol Spence. Honestly, he would have stopped him. Tim Tszyu's issue is that Tim Tszyu, for a guy who was using his legs to get off the line, similar to Errol Spence, he don't use a jab and move his head. Had he just used a jab last night, that he would have probably knocked out Errol Spence. Spence, all the issues that he had before that car accident, or y'all say after the car accident, or he had during the Derrick James era and during the Ronnie era, it's all the same issues. It's all the stuff that I talked about that I said I was getting hated for. His weight is too much distributed over his front foot. You can't fight like that, bro. Especially when you moving up versus bigger guys. All his weight is shifted over his front foot. All Tim Tszyu did is he just did what Crawford did. He used lateral movement and he countered. He knew when Errol Spence threw punches, all his weight would be over his front foot. He square up, and all Tim Tszyu was after the third or fourth round, all he had to do is just find the range and he start countering him at will. Spence offense to defense is horrible, bro. It's because his weight distribution. He's just too much on the front foot. It's hard to shift that to be so heavy on the front foot. Uppercut. Paulie was crying for the uppercut last night. Took Tim Tszyu about 8 rounds to throw the uppercut. When you fight a guy like Errol Spence is there. When he throw punches, his chin is over his left knee. Over his right knee every time. When he throw punches, he don't hold the phone. When he throw that left hand, is he gonna drop it before he hold the phone? Look at him right here. He damn near square right here. He square up to him. It was shit I was saying even before this, bro. How did Ugas catch him? He squared up. I keep telling y'all niggas this shit, bro. Like I told y'all, it's no difference between him and Tim Tszyu, bro. Earl might be more athletic in his prime, but that's because he's squeezing down. Tim Tszyu was stronger. You know, he would really have to just out jab Tim Tszyu and really just use footwork and pivot. I like the way his feet was moving last night. Yeah, the back leg looked a little stiff. Might be an injury there, but maybe brought the legs in and just showed a little bit of lateral movement. You know, he don't feint. He just Errol Spence. That was as far as people saying he carried him, I ain't sure. I can't call it. I don't think so, man. I think that's just the way Tim is, bro. Tim don't have that next gear. You kind of see how you seen several different gears from Errol Spence. He came out high for like 3 or 4 rounds. Then he took it ground off. But then that 11th round, he went high into another gear, even though he blew his load. No did he? Yeah, I mean, Tim Tszyu don't have that gear, bro. Like when he cook, like he got 2 gears. When he coming out, it's real lethargic. Let me warm up. You know, Spence had the right idea, right? Tim Tszyu he a cook, but it's not a 3rd or 4th gear in Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu ain't getting out of 2nd level. Even when he be cooking a motherfucker, he ain't no guy like when Bud can finish a dude or Earl can finish a guy, or even when AJ can finish a guy, he don't have that next level. It ain't that he don't possess a killer instinct. He just don't possess the necessary gear. It's just not in his transmission. So that's just what it is. I don't think he carried him. I just don't think he got that gear. I don't think he got that gear. Don't jab enough. You know, but to be honest, man, Errol Spence showed that, man, he can take a punch. To jump up, 2 weight classes. And Tim Tszyu is a thick kid, you know what I'm saying? To jump up 2 weight classes, bro, in his determination. Errol Spence a fighter, bro. Errol Spence is a certified fucking fighter. Real talk. Errol Spence is sorry because he could have quit. 3 years off of doing something, bro. He could have quit that fight. Errol Spence is a fighter. Errol Spence is a fighter. In a generation of boxers and pussy ass niggas, Errol Spence is a fighter. He's the last of a dying breed. He should be proud of himself because he had every reason to quit, and we all could have been like, yeah, No, I wouldn't have. If he quit, I wouldn't have criticized him. I don't criticize people that quit in boxing. Most niggas get on that treadmill, nigga. You quit, nigga. That Stairmaster, like he fought like he's a fighter. You know, respectfully, Errol Spence is a fighter, bro. He took a lot of punishment where he could have quit. He could have quit. He did not quit. He did not quit. And he can take a punch. He took a punch at middleweight. He went from welterweight 3 years ago to middleweight. He took a punch, and he kept it. And it was just that, like, if you never competed in sports, you don't know what it feel like for your body to, like, your mind wants to do something, but your body can't do it. May it be from injuries or may it be from lack of conditioning. Like, it's a different feeling, bro. It's like people know, like, anybody that ran track or ran distance or played tennis or played basketball, like basketball and football, you can buy breaks. You know what I'm saying? But I'm pretty sure, like, soccer, I'm pretty sure it's hard to buy breaks in soccer. but you know what I'm talking about? Like, when you in the conditioning, when you can, like, when your conditioning and you in competition and your conditioning is tested, bro, and your chest hurt and your legs locking up, you know, the lactic acid building up your muscles. People know what I'm talking about, bro. So for you to continue to do what he did last night, man, I mean, I'm proud of him, bro. Because versus that Bud fight, he didn't quit. He proved that he one of the toughest fighters of his era. He proved that he one of the toughest fighters of his era. No doubt. He proved that he one of the most toughest fighters. You know what I'm saying? And that's not just because he took an ass whooping, but him, Deontay, and he said he wanted to prove something to himself. He said he wanted to prove something to himself. And only real men understand that. Only us real men understand that sometimes you just want to prove it to yourself. And, you know, Tszyu is just somebody who don't have that gear. Now, you could ask me what Errol could have did different. More lateral movement. You know, more lateral movement. He should have been pivoting more, but it's hard to pivot when your base is that wide. More lateral movement, more hooks. You know, more, you know, the bull in the matador. He had Tszyu coming in. Check hook would have been good. Turn him, you know, straight left hand. I think could have more of that. And I was listening to Tom. He was like, well, I ain't see no improvement from Ronnie Shields. It's hard to improve somebody in one fight, bro. This is why they say you microdose the fights. This is why they say you microdose the fights. It's hard. You need 3, 4, 5 camps to really make a significant impact on and change, because he been doing the same thing since 15 years old, 12, 15 years old. So there ain't nothing that Ronnie could have really changed. He just it's really strategy at that point. One training camp, you ain't gonna change habits. You're not. You're not gonna change it. That's why they do a bunch of tune-ups. This is why I was saying maybe he should have did a world tour or a tour like China, and they could have just micro worked on some of the things. That's how you do it. Is you building up reputation. You're building up reputation. So, you know, what he was doing with Derek was hard to kind of teach him to bend and get his head off the line and do those things. Ronnie was just there to manage. But I think he showed enough in this fight that getting out of training camp, they made the right decision to make this fight. But, you know, whether it was getting all his chili, you know what I'm saying, from Al Heyman, which I assume it was, or, you know, maybe it's just he wanted to come back. You know, maybe, you know, I think maybe he should have just came back. Honestly, I think maybe he should have just came back and did a closeout fight in Dallas. You know, for the local guy, for the local guys, something like that. Maybe fought some up and coming lower Texas guys. Maybe fought 3 or 4 of them in the same night or something. I mean, I think in hindsight, we all can say we think he should have did, but, you know, we didn't want to see his career go like this. Now, you know, is he gonna get into the Hall of Fame? Is Triple G in there? He getting in there. So I will say that I don't really believe he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe Triple G deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. But that's just my opinion. But if Triple G in it, he deserved to be in it. You know, Barry McGuinness in it, he deserved to be in it. You know, Torrey Gotti in it, he deserved to be in it. So yeah, I mean, the Hall of Fame, like I said, most Hall of Fame, with the participation trophy award era that we're in, in the era that we're in, they letting a whole bunch of people get in the Hall of Fame who don't deserve to get in the Hall of Fame. We seeing that a whole bunch of people that get into the Hall of Fame that don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I have no issue with some of these other dudes that's in the Hall of Fame. He deserved to get up in there, up through there. So I'm pretty sure he'd be in the Texas Boxing Hall of Fame. Probably gonna be in the Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame. I have no issue with it. They letting everybody in the Hall of Fame now. But Tim Tszyu, Errol Spence, I would like to see him actually close his career out at home. It don't even have to be the biggest venue. I like to see him close his shit out at the crib. Close it out in Texas and be done. That's what I think he should do. Just close it out in Texas versus the lower level guy. Maybe go find Charles Hatley or some shit like that. That's what I would like to see. One of them guys working at the Wally World or some shit like that. And, but then again, he said he don't want to do the press and the media run. So, if that's the case, hopefully, he enjoy retirement. He won't have that what if on his brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, what if, I would have came back and fought Tim Tszyu and all this type of stuff. So, like I said, even when people started talking about the rust that he had, I ain't really see no rust. He came out firing. He just didn't have the firepower. And that just comes from, you fighting at a bigger weight class. These dudes can absorb the punch. One of the biggest jumps is 47 to 54 because it's a lot that changed from that jump. The gloves go from 8 to 10s. A lot of the guys get significantly bigger. And historically, the jump was from 47 to 60. So imagine that. They make weight classes for a reason. People said, well, Floyd said he should have been a middleweight the whole shit. Man, that nigga career would have been, it'd have been shorter than short had he made that jump to welterweight. I mean, had he started at 60, he wouldn't have been a world champion. So, I mean, y'all can say what y'all want to say. He wouldn't have been a world champion. They make weight classes for a reason. These dudes squeeze down to a weight for a reason. I have no issue with it. If you can do it, you can do it. That's what it's been about. You think people in wrestling ain't squeezing down to a weight that they shouldn't be at? It comes with the territory. So, happy retirement to him. For Tim Tszyu, I think if my memory serves me correctly, I heard him say last night that he is going to compete at 160. Nothing is at 160. Nothing is there. Nothing the fuck is at 160. I promise you. You got a drug cheat that still holds a title at 60. That's the most significant thing at 60. The IBF is vacant. I think Carlos Adames is the best fighter there. Him and Lara. He can do whatever you want. Go beat up on White Magic. Bring White Magic to Australia. Ain't nothing there. It's a bunch of, I don't know. Ain't nothing there. So, we'll figure it out, but I don't see nobody of significance there. 60 is the dead man's area. It's been dead for years. Here and there, it'll peak. Canelo, Triple G peaked it for a minute. Before that, Martinez, Pavlik, Martinez, Chavez, Jr. Other than that, 60 ain't been lit in a while. Lit since, even when Bernard was there, man, it was lit, but 60 ain't really been lit. One of the more historical, the historical importance to boxing, 60 was, man. It's been dead. 60 been dead like a motherfucker, boy. Man, Triple G, Canelo. You can't even say it was really